In this video we're going to be looking at quite a tricky exam type question on sample distribution. The question says, on Space Invaders, a spaceship runs across the top. 50% of the time it is worth 50 points, 30% of the time is worth 75 points, and 20% of the time it is worth 100 points. Part A asks us to find what is the mean and variance of the points of the spaceship, and B asks us to find the sample distribution of the median. So let's start with finding the mean and variance. Well, let's list the possible outcomes. So the value of the spaceship could be 50, could be 75, or it could be 100. And the probability of each of those is, well, 50% is a half, 30% is 3/10, and 20% is a fifth. So that's the probability of each one of those happening. Now, to find the mean, we need to do the sum of x times the probability of x. So let's do that. Well, x here is 50 and the probability of x is a half, so we need to do 50 times a half. And then we need to add that to 75 times 3/10. We also need to add that to 100 times a fifth. And when we calculate that, we'll get a mean of 67.5. So that's how you do that one. With the variance, remember we need to do the sum of x squared times the probability of x, and then we need to take away the mean all squared. So we're going to have to do 50 squared times a half plus 75 squared times 3/10 and 100 squared times a fifth. And we also then need to take away the mean, which is 70.5, and square the mean. And when we calculate that, we should get 381.25, and that is our variance. So here's our mean, here's our variance. Pretty simple, couple of marks there. Now we're asked to find the sampling distribution of the mean. Now I've just noticed that we haven't got something that we haven't got a number of this in the sample, so let me amend the question. So I've just added in this line, the spaceship is hit 3 times. We need to now find the sampling distribution of the median. Okay, so in order to find the sampling distribution, we need to list all the possible combinations. Now, there's going to be a lot of combinations here because we've got 3 options and 3 choices, which means we're going to have 27 different combinations. Now, one way of making sure that you've got all of them is to list each type. So we've got 50, 75 and 100, and we could have 3 times of 50, 2 of 50, or 1, 50 or none, 3, 2, 1 and 3, 2 and 1. So use these to help cross off when you've listed those ones. It just helps with being systematic. So I'm going to start with the 50s. So we could have 3 50s, so 50, 50 and 50. We could have 2 50s chosen, so 50, 50 and 75, and then all the combinations of that, so 50, 75, 50 and then 75, 50 and 50. But we could also have 2 50s but with 100. So list all the combinations of that as well. Okay, so I've done these possible scenarios. Now I'm going to do when 75 could have 3. So that's 75, 75 and 75. Also going to list the times where it could have 2. So 75, 75 and 50, 75, 50, 75 and then 50, 75, 75. Or of course it could be 2 75s and 100. So we need to list those outcomes as well. So now I've done where you've got 2 75s. And then finally I'm going to do the hundreds. So we could have 3 hundreds, 1, 2, 3. Or we could have the scenarios where there are 2 100s. So there could be 2 100s with a 50 or 2 100s with a 75. I'm going to list those now. So now I've done all the combinations where we have either 3 of one type or 2 of one type. And I need to finish up by doing where there's 1 of each type. So at the moment we've got 7 combinations here, 7 here, 7 here, so 21 combinations in total. We need another 6, and so if I give myself a little bit more room, I'm going to start with 50, so 50, then 100 and 75, or it could be the other way around, 50 and then 75, 100. What if 75 was the first one? So 75, then we could draw a 50 and a 100, or it could be the other way around, 75, 100 and then 50. And then finally, if 100 was first, we could have 50 and 75 in that order, or it could be in the other order, 100, 75 and 50. So finally we have all the 27 combinations. We now need to find the median of each of these and then work out the probabilities. So the median of this first row is 50, same with this one here and this one here. If you were to take these samples and put them in order, so let's say we took this sample and put it in order, the middle number would be 50. On this one it's 75, there it's 75, and there it's 75, and on these ones it's 100. So we need to find the probability of all of those combinations, but also looking at these last 6 that we did, on all of those the middle number, if we were to put them in order, would be 75. So we need to include those when we're calculating for 75. So if we start working out the probabilities of each one, so the possible medians could be 50, 75 or 100. So if it was a median of 50, the only combinations where the median is 50 are these ones here. So that's where we either get 3 scores of 50, so that would be the probability of getting a score of 50 is a half. We need to add that to 3 times getting a 50 twice and a 75 once. And we also need to add that to when we get a half twice and 100 once. So of course that half should be squared because we got it twice. So that is these combinations up here So I've multiplied each of these ones by 3 because it happens in 3 possible ways. I'm now going to do the same for the 75, so I'm going to do that for these combinations, but I'm also going to include these ones here. So for 75, the probability of that is 3 over 10, and that could happen 3 times, but it could also be where we have 2 75s and a 50, or it could be where we have 2 75s and a 100. But also we have this scenario where you have one of each, and there are 6 possible combinations of that. So to add to this, 6 times 3 over 10 times a half times a fifth. That's the probability of each one. And then finally for the 100, probability of getting 3 100s is a fifth cubed, and then add to that the other combinations. So that's where we get 2 100s and a 50, or where we get 2 100s. Sorry, that should be a fifth. 2 100s, that's the probability of getting 100, times by 3 tenths. So those are the calculations that we need to do to find the probabilities. So when we work these ones out, well, the probability that the median will be 50 is a half. The probability that median will be 75 is 99 over 250, and the probability that 100 will be the median is 13 over 125. Now that's the question completed, but a good way of checking if you've got the right answer is making sure that all of these 3 fractions add up to 1. So if I make the common denominator 250, a half is 125 over 250. This one is 99 over 250, and then this one will be 26 over 250, and that does indeed equal 1. So that was just to check if my answers added up to 1, which means that I have done all of the question correctly.